Welcome back to The Explainer. So glad you're joining me today because, wow, we have got something truly special to unpack. We are going to be looking at this profoundly insightful animated parable, originally from an RSSB Hindi source, that deals with a struggle literally every single one of us faces. You know, how we react when it feels like our entire life is just falling apart. We're going to break this narrative down step by step, really getting into the psychology of the characters, the sudden twists, and those deep hidden philosophical lessons. It's honestly just a masterful story about perception, facing adversity, and discovering hidden grace. Okay, so let's dive right into this. Have you ever had one of those days, or honestly, maybe it's a week or a whole month, where it feels like the universe is just totally out to get you? You know exactly the feeling I'm talking about. Your car breaks down, and then you lose a huge client at work, and then the roof springs a leak, all back to back to back. It's totally human nature to look at a streak of bad luck like that and feel targeted or cursed or just deeply anxious. I want you to keep that very relatable, very frustrating feeling in mind, because that is the exact emotional starting point for the amazing story we're about to explore. All right, Section 1, The Wise Man's Village, setting the stage for the parable. So let's set the stage here and look at where this whole narrative actually begins. We're going to focus on this really fascinating dynamic between a community and its trusted leader. Picture this. Our story opens in this quiet, perfectly peaceful little village. But, you know, like any community anywhere, the people here faced their fair share of day-to-day confusions and anxieties. But they had a secret weapon. Living right there among them was this remarkably wise old man. The source material tells us that whenever the villagers fell into a dilemma, or whenever they felt afraid, they would go straight to this elder for advice. He was basically their anchor. No matter what, whenever they visited him, his wisdom consistently brought them comfort and peace of mind. He was absolutely the village's trusted source of stability. Which brings us to Section 2, 3 Unexplained Tragedies. The rapid escalation of bad luck. Now, what's really interesting here is just how abruptly that village's perfect stability is completely shattered. I mean, we shift from this peaceful baseline into a sudden, massive escalation of anxiety. The tragedies strike with terrifying speed. On day 1, out of nowhere, all the chickens in the village, even the tiny little chicks, die from some mysterious, unknown illness. And of course, the villagers are terrified of an epidemic. But before they can even process that loss, day 2 hits, and every single guard dog in the village falls violently ill and passes away. And as if that wasn't enough, that very same night, the electricity completely fails. The entire village is plunged into absolute deafening darkness. Boom, boom, boom. 3 massive, unexplainable blows in under 48 hours. And this sudden string of disasters, it creates this fascinating psychological divide that really becomes the core of our story. On one side, we have the villagers, and they are in full-blown panic mode. They run straight to the wise man, crying and complaining. They feel completely victimized, asking, why is every bad thing happening to our village? They're especially terrified because without their guard dogs, they feel utterly defenseless against thieves. But contrast that with the wise man. He doesn't panic. Even when the villagers mockingly question his wisdom, he remains steadfastly calm. His response to this whole streak of devastation? He literally just says, there must be some good in this. And this brings us to a foundational concept the wise man is really trying to teach here. It's called sabr. Now, that translates roughly to patience, but honestly, it's much, much deeper than just waiting in a line at the grocery store. Sabr is the active ability to endure incredibly difficult circumstances and maintain a profound trust in a higher power, all without demanding immediate understanding. When the villagers angrily demand to know why God is punishing them with a blackout, the wise man gently tells them to have sabr. He reminds them that understanding the will of the divine is not always easy, and it certainly isn't always immediate. Let's look at Section 3, the looming threat. A hidden danger approaches the village. Okay, so while the villagers are busy complaining about their terrible luck in the dark, an actual lethal threat is moving through the countryside right toward them. We learn from the source that a ruthless gang of bandits is actively terrorizing the local rural areas. And these guys aren't just petty pickpockets. They violently smash windows and break locks to invade homes. They strip houses of absolutely everything valuable. And most terrifyingly, they are known to brutally murder anyone who dares to cross them or even try to stop them. And this violent gang is currently setting their sights directly on our village. A village that, remember, is currently pitch black and entirely stripped of its guard dogs. The stakes here are literally life and death. Section 4, A Blessing in Disguise. The dramatic twist of fate. So let's pause for a second. The village is completely vulnerable, and these ruthless bandits are creeping up, preparing to raid it. Let's see how these two storylines actually collide. As the bandits approach, they hear absolute dead silence because the chickens are gone. As they get closer, not a single alarm is raised because there are no guard dogs left to bark. And when they wait for nightfall to attack, they see absolutely zero lights because the electricity has completely failed. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact point the wise man was trying to make. That silence and that darkness, it completely tricks the thieves. Standing on the edge of this pitch-black, entirely silent settlement, the bandit leader looks around, growls in frustration, and just declares, "This village is deserted, let's move on." Without ever realizing how close they came to utter destruction, the villagers are spared. The bandits simply walk away, leaving the village completely untouched, strictly because of those three quote-unquote tragedies the villagers had been crying about all week. Crazy, right? Finally, Section 5, the philosophy of patience. Decoding the lesson of the parable. So, the morning arrives, the threat is long gone, and the villagers suddenly connect the dots. You see, when the blackout first happened, the wise man called it a sign of Dayamir, which means God's grace or mercy. Now, the villagers had mocked him for it. I mean, how on earth could dead dogs and no power be mercy? But now, as they realize their incredible foolishness, it all makes perfect sense. This concept teaches us that blessings don't always look like, winning the lottery. Sometimes, protective grace arrives wearing the incredibly uncomfortable disguise of adversity, loss, and frustration. What the villagers originally saw as a curse was actually a divine shield that quite literally saved their lives. So, the crucial point is how this shifts our entire perspective on hardship. The villagers naturally felt a deep sense of shame for doubting and getting so angry at the wise man. They gathered together, went to his home, and sincerely apologized and thanked him. But the wise man, he didn't gloat at all. He simply laughed warmly, reiterating that Daya God's grace, often comes wrapped in very strange, very painful disguises. He leaves them with this ultimate lesson. When we practice sabr, when we exercise patience and think deeply instead of just reacting blindly to things, we will eventually see that whatever happens is ultimately for the best. Which leaves us with one final pretty important question. Next time a minor or even major tragedy strikes in your own life, will you have the patience to look for the hidden blessing? Look, it is incredibly difficult in the moment to not react exactly like those panicking villagers. But if this explainer leaves you with just one thing, let it be the wise man's calm confidence. The next time you face a sudden loss, a failure, or a really dark night, remember this parable. Challenge yourself to have just a little bit of sabr. Pause for a second and wonder, could this actually be a blessing in disguise? Thank you so much for learning with me today. Keep seeking, keep reflecting, and I'll see you in the next explainer.